All right, Nick, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. Obviously, the big news around the Steelers this offseason has been the bringing in of both quarterbacks, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. And those quarterbacks aren't at the facility right now, but that doesn't mean they haven't been the talk of absolutely everybody from what they have been doing so far this offseason. Let's get into the article and then we'll talk more about what this means on the other side. This, of course, is from over on The Athletic, saying Russell Wilson's presence sure has resonated throughout the organization since the Steelers signed the former Super Bowl champion quarterback in early March. That was clearly evident during rookie minicamp, with Wilson's name being brought up unsolicited on a handful of occasions. The common thread: Wilson's relentless work ethic. One team source said the Steelers haven't seen somebody work as hard as Wilson at his craft since the early days of Antonio Brown, who was notorious for the effort he put into the game to become the best wide receiver in the league for a span of more than 5 years. This from Mike Tomlin. Said, I think probably the most attractive component of his profile to me is the quest for greatness. Man, this chase for legacy. Tomlin said of new quarterback at the league meetings in March. Nick, I think this just speaks volumes about how everybody is talking about Russell Wilson, his preparation, his dedication to his craft. I think this was a great pickup for the Steelers. I'm curious what your thoughts are and what all this means. But Steelers fans, in the comment section below, the schedule has released. There's a lot of great games looking out there. Probably going to be some answers about what game you're looking forward to as far as divisional opponents, but there are some guys you don't play as often as well. So we're curious in the comment section below, what game are you the most looking forward to, or is it a game you're trying to go to? Let us know in the comment section below. But Nick, what are your thoughts on Russell Wilson and the Steelers?
Yeah, so it's this time of year where anytime a coach, an assistant coach, or a rookie or whoever goes to a press conference and there's going to get someone in the media who's going to sit there and say, hey, what do you think of person X? So, for example, if you had one of these rookies, Fatanu, for example, the tackle from Washington, he talks in front of the media. Some guy from the media is going to say, like, hey, what do you think of Russell Wilson? And he'll say, Wilson's the best. He's amazing. And all the platitudes left and right. And that's all good. What's interesting to me about this report and what's such a great sign for Pittsburgh is that Russell Wilson's name is coming up unsolicited. That is the key word here. It means Wilson's impact is already so deep and so far reaching in the organization that people are just bringing up his name as if he's the guy who established the culture. It's as if he's Tom Brady being the Patriot Way leader with time in New England, as if he's Ben Roethlisberger for so many years with the Steelers, right? As Peyton Manning was with the Indianapolis Colts. Now, I'm not saying Russell Wilson is as good as those guys. Of course, he's not. But the reality is the impact he's had from a leadership perspective, a work ethic perspective, a professionalism perspective is already at that level. And he's been with the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 months, 2.5 months at this point, right? So we're looking at a situation here where Russell Wilson's mentality, his leadership, his work ethic alone has already changed this organization completely from where it was when Kenny Pickett was running the show behind center. Of course, we saw some action from guys like Mason Rudolph as well. I think having this standard archetypal leader behind center was something the Pittsburgh Steelers desperately missed when Ben Roethlisberger retired. Kenny Pickett had a lot of flaws. He had a lot of good things as well. But I think it was clear his leadership traits, his professionalism, his work ethic weren't where it was needed to be a leader of men, the quarterback, franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers obviously have talent on both sides of the ball, great defense, some playmakers on offense, offensive line getting better and better, but they were clearly missing the guy, the old school man leading the machine behind center at the quarterback position. It sounds so cliche, but you really do need a leader back there. There's a reason only the leaders, Mahomes, Roethlisberger, Brady, Breeze, Manning, are the guys that win Super Bowls, right? The guys that are kind of like soft, quiet. They're not really good leaders. Well, you can be soft and quiet, but they're not very. They're not the standard prototypical leader we expect behind center. We look at those guys. Those guys don't win championships, right? We see it all the time. But you need to have a guy like Russell Wilson is doing with Pittsburgh who's willing to come in and show the way through his demeanor, through his attitude, through his work ethic. The fact that people are bringing up Russell Wilson unsolicited, to me, is a great start that one of the biggest problems of the Kenny Pickett era has been solved.
Yeah, and you brought up some great football examples, but when I think Russell Wilson, I think work ethic. I almost think of kind of like Kobe Bryant, where people would talk about Kobe coming in,
Yeah, that's a good point.
hours before practice, just shooting the ball in the dark gym. They talk about he used to play his teammates in high school, like one on one games to 100 after practice, where they would just play for hours. This is a guy who gets up every day, like gets to the gym between 4 and 5 a.m. and just grinding. And everybody talked about Kobe. And obviously, again, I don't think Russell Wilson is the caliber of player as a Kobe Bryant, but I think the work ethic, is the key here. It's like you said, this is the kind of thing where you do this and it leaves deep seated fissures, deep seated roots within the organization, and it makes it so no one else can complain. No one else can say, all right, well, I don't want to come in for these offseason workouts. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. If Russell Wilson comes in and shows how strong his work ethic is, it makes it so everybody else on the team, because he's probably one of the most veteran guys on the team, everyone else kind of has to follow suit to what he's doing. And like you said, I think that's going to change a lot of issues from the Kenny Pickett era of the Pittsburgh Steelers and really get this team going on the right direction, especially on the offensive side of the ball, because that is the side of the ball that I think is the most room for improvement. Defense have been pretty good. There's some ups and downs in some position groups, but I think overall the defense has been great. The offense is the thing that I think we're going to see the most massive change and where I think Russell Wilson will help the most.
And there's one final point to end on here. One of the biggest complaints of Russell Wilson in Denver was that he was sort of a little bit too of a he hammed it up a little bit too much. He was too much into the celebrity status a little bit. Whether that was true or not, that was kind of the narrative that was being played. You talk about a guy who's come to Pittsburgh who is totally embraced the opposite narrative with his work ethic, doesn't seem to have any interest doing any of the sort of celebrity political kind of stuff he was kind of doing in Denver, trying to be the man of the city, things like that. I think Russell Wilson is not only showing a good example and being the leader the Steelers need, he's also putting to rest some of the biggest concerns he had coming out of Denver. I think Wilson's off to a great start for the Steelers, and I'm excited to see what comes next.